I put a picture from our 40th anniversary above my office, and I can't tell you how many times people stop and look and want to hear about the story.
How many times did we have to sign, eh?
Yeah.
You know, you had to put your house in jeopardy. And
Yeah,
everything personally guaranteed. And I'm sure that there's a lot of wives, and I'm not giving myself a pat, but a lot of wives would say, "What, are you nuts?"
My father was selling the cars, he was servicing the cars, he was cleaning the cars, he was a one-man show. And when you sell 300 cars in your first year with one employee, it was pretty obvious that Honda was going to be a success.
I'm Monica Carmichael, and I'm the General Manager and Dealer Principal at Trent Valley Honda. My father is Frank Mandeljc, and he came to Canada at 18 years old, not knowing how to speak English, with very little in possessions. And he was here as a refugee, and he basically took his trade and his work ethic and his kindness and care of people, and him and two other partners originally in 1975 opened one of the very first Honda dealerships in Canada.
My mother died when I was still 17, so I turned 18 in April. She died in February. And then I escaped from Yugoslavia, which was at that time was still Yugoslavia, which had
Communism.
Guarded border, you know, with the machine guns and everything. Mm-hmm. So we went over the mountains, and then the Austrian capture us, the police, the border police, and then we got locked in for a week in the prison, and then into to the camp, like not a refugee camp, but yeah, refugee, because in that time was so much trouble and was so many people coming to Austria from Hungary and
all over,
you know. And then I escaped from Austria to Germany.
But tell her that story, how you did that.
Well, we were in the camp, okay, where the refugee camp was. And the thing was all steel, painters were all steel.
The
window gutter, right? Like
with
bars
yeah.
Reinforced. So the only one that was not half the guard was the one in the washroom. So we tied, with a friend of mine, we tied two sheets together and escaped to the third floor. And in the meantime, we sent, I had a girl when she was in the free camp, she sent a telegram to my brother in Germany, so he picked me up exactly, we marked where we want to be and what time and everything else. So we drove to German border out like at night, raining, and so, and this the little walking bridge south of the like the autobahn, which you had to get there and run across. This is a big sawmill, and that's where he was waiting for us. And then in Germany, I was working in the factory that and they come one Friday, police came to get back in, and they will send me back, because in that time the Germany had an agreement with Yugoslavia to not to take any refugees. One was in that time only to Canada and Australia was taking immigrants.
So that was
Those were
your
the
choices.
choices.
Yeah.
So that's the
Canada
way.
was the pick.
So then we came with the boat. We came to Quebec City in July in '64. Well, it took about 14 days. On boat, I was sent to Winnipeg by immigration. So,
Did you take the train then?
yeah, train from
Quebec?
Quebec City to Winnipeg, which of course I didn't know at that time. I knew very little about Canada. I didn't know where to Winnipeg, where they sent me. The immigration sent me to a Volkswagen dealer, and he offered me something like $125 every 2 weeks, because you don't have the license, you don't have
No
to.
language. They thought they were doing you a favor.
And then in Winnipeg in winter, in that time, was a little bit different, no work. We were 6 mechanics in the summer to the fall, and then down to 1 mechanic. So I was laid up. And in the spring, with the connection, I came to Kitchener through Mercedes connection. I was working in Mercedes dealership. Same in Kitchener. And then from Kitchener, I met my wife.
Oh, that's a story.
That's a good one.
Well, yeah, in Kitchener I was a music teacher, and I was 17 or 18, and I was taking dancing lessons, ballroom dancing. But every Saturday night we go, Kitchener has tons of clubs, right? European clubs with lots of European music. We could practice our polkas and waltzes and tangos, and it'd be just a table full of girls, right? And so of course we'd be judging everybody by how they dance. And so he asked me to dance, and we danced, and we didn't hit it off at all. You know, I can remember sitting down and saying to the girls, no, I don't need to dance with him anymore. And
Doesn't make the cut.
So about a half a year goes by, and I'm walking home one night, and he comes by with this Mercedes, and he rolls down the window and calls my name and asks me if I wanted to go dancing on a Saturday night. And I'm thinking, I don't know. Anyway, I said yes. And so we did go out. And by that time, it was like unbelievable. We were dancing like a team, like just wow. And I said to him, you know, when did you learn to dance? And he said, my mother taught me back home in Slovenia. And then I always say we were so matched, because in Slovenia, everybody plays accordion. And because I was an accordion teacher and he loved the accordion, it's just like, I love dancing and he loved the accordion, and he loved music too. He was such a good dancer and he loved music, and I know he was happy that I played the accordion. And then really later on in Ottawa, I played in a band, and believe it or not, he was part of the band. Yeah, we'd play at the German club, and he'd be right there, you know. The men would be sending me roses, and I'd go, oh, this is my husband. I don't know, and then before you know it, Moni came along. We're so proud of her.
We're very proud of her.
We never tell her enough.
My father's always been very passionate about cars. He learned a trade in his teenage years. And when he came to Canada, that was basically what he had to offer to this country. So he started working on German cars, because that's the cars that he knew from Europe. And we moved from Kitchener, where I was born, to Ottawa, where he worked on the Prime Minister's car, and then eventually Peterborough. And he befriended the Mercedes, initially the Mercedes dealership, dealer principal at the time, and was hired, and then he went to work on the Datsun Fiat brand with the O'Reilly family, and then Honda came knocking looking for young motivated gentlemen who might take a chance on a car from Japan that no one knew about.
Basically, when my dad started the business, he had a partner. At the time, my father was selling the cars, he was servicing the cars, he was cleaning the cars, he was a one-man show. And when you sell 300 cars in your first year with one employee, it was pretty obvious that Honda was going to be a success, and my dad had to buy that partner out. It had become pretty evident, because my dad's a bit of a maverick, that, you know, a partnership wasn't going to be the way that it was. And so my mom said, well, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to learn how to do books, and that's that. She put herself through college and got her accounting certificate while working here full time. So when we say Trent Valley Honda, we talk a lot about the founder, my dad, but she's every bit a part of the story, probably a bigger part of the story.
I don't think you really planned to have me as working with you anyway. And he calls and he said, yeah, my bookkeeper's leaving.
Maybe a couple of years.
And of course I had no accounting experience, right? And it's just like, oh, really? Like, you know, do you want me to help you? Because we were always a good team.
They complement each other.
If he had a problem with English, I could spell right. You know what I mean? I could type and I know when we were just going through the Honda business, buying the dealership and all these questions and all these questionnaires, and he wouldn't have the patience.
He made up for it.
He made up for it, yeah.
To the customer, right?
That's it.
Like service end, like he had that ingrained in his heart.
They loved him.
They still tell stories to the day, right?
Yeah.
He knew exactly, you know, when to give and you know what to do. If there was a mistake, he always made right by it. Yet it started with a problem, but it's how you take care of a concern or an issue that arises, right? And that was right from him. I mean, that's how he started and built the business.
I borrowed $5,000 to buy 40%. So
wow, that was pretty good.
In the good old days.
That was all built on credit. Mm-hmm. You know, we paid about a year with all the interest and loans on that about $300,000 a year. So figured out 30 years is how much money.
Interest,
and
you
interest
mean, to the
interest
bank.
only.
Just interest. Oh, Frank says he's built that tower in Toronto, the Scotiabank Tower. I built it, and I even paid for the furniture in it.
So
well,
right,
and you have to sign your life away too.
Right.
I mean, how many times did we have to sign, eh?
Yeah.
You know, you had to put your house in jeopardy. You had to sign on the dotted line.
personal.
And
everything
yeah,
was-
everything personally guaranteed. And I'm sure that there's a lot of wives, and I'm not giving myself a pat, but a lot of wives would say, "What? Are you nuts?"
Yeah.
Like for that amount,
big risk.
Big risk. You know, losing your house. But I trusted him. He never let me down ever in my entire life. And it's like, okay, Alfie, sign here. Okay, sign here. Sign here. And so that's what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the support from her was excellent, and even now with it, we have no problem.
The strength that my dad could lean on was really my mother. He never had to worry about a bill being paid. He never had to worry about that because Mom was actually the stable platform from which he could just sell cars, fix cars, look after customers.
I can remember when we had our office, we had one office between the two of us, but he always said, you know, we can't bring our work home. We have to keep it separate. And that's the one thing that really made us both stay there as long as we did, I think, because we never brought it home. We really never, ever brought it home. He always said, business is business, family's family. You don't go home and start talking about employees and this and that. And we really managed quite well to do that, eh, Frank?
When his business is business, when his family is family.
Yeah. And I mean, that was with the kids too,
And we still
eh?
do that now,
Yeah.
right? Because Frank and I work together, so, you know, we have our time, but when we come, it's like we try not to talk about business. We focus on the kids and we focus on the family.
And for husband and wife to work side by side, it's not easy. And
That's
I know
for
a lot
sure.
that don't work. You know, it just doesn't work because you never get away from it.
Plus, you know, like we didn't fight at home on this and that. So, I mean, when we
Set
were
a
married
good
50 years this year. So, but we always separated things. The
Yeah.
kids, everybody knew what was
What was going
on,
yeah.
how much money we
No
borrow,
secrets.
how
No
much we
secrets,
pay.
yeah.
No secrets. So the kids basically grew up with a business. That's why I'm a very fortunate man, unlucky that both kids are involved in the business that we put together. I think that it shows in the kids and that, and you know, we done a good job. We are lucky to have two kids like that are taking over our hard work, and that is a excellent little business, as we still call it. We are not little anymore, but
We never planned
kind of.
that Moni would run it, really,
You know.
right? Not in those years. We never thought. You know what really is amazing, though? European men tend to be male chauvinistic, and their son is the son, and the son and the daughter nothing. And I'm so proud of him, and I've always said this, that he recognized that Moni would be the person and not Frankie. Because Frankie's a great salesman, but Moni was the one that always with money and management and taking care of things. She was the girl. And for a European man to realize that, I don't think there's many European men that hand it over to the daughter. And that's one thing I've been so proud of him, that he could actually let go. He's a visionary. He always was. Like, he always was way ahead of his time.
So in 1995, when my dad announced he was retiring and I assumed the general manager position, it was an interesting time because my dad was such a dedicated workaholic throughout his life, building his dream here in Canada, dedicated to the community and his staff, that we really questioned if he could remove himself from what he had built. He decided that he was going to pursue his dreams back in his village and really pour back to that community. The rest of his family, his brothers, his nephews, were all in Slovenia, in his village, Gorje. And so this gave him the opportunity to live his dreams in the country of his birth. He spent basically the next 10 to 15 years building churches, you know, buying wheelchairs for his brother who became ill, supporting his family there, becoming really an icon in that community, giving back, you know, with the resources that he had come to by building Trent Valley Honda. So it was a pretty amazing dream. And that's where he found some of our technicians, and he had a lot of people come over the years. My mom used to always say she had a revolving hotel at their house, because he would see anyone that showed any interest or potential, he would say, come to my place. You can come and stay for a week or two, you can check it out, you know, maybe there's a job you can find. And honestly, we have met and seen so many young people, many who have become Canadian citizens and have their own businesses or have made their lives or made their family choices to stay here like he did. And some that have gone home and given back to their families just like he did, you know, when he was at the point where he could retire and felt the business was in good hands and he had done what he wanted to do to leave his mark here, right? A great example is Lottie Kovcic. He's a technician. He came here in 1989 to join the Trent Valley Honda team, and he is still with the company, I'm proud to say, one of our longest standing staff. A very talented man who has taken the opportunity to come to Canada, met my dad at a local pub, heard he was in town in the village in Gorje where they both are from, had an interview, quickly had to make a life decision as a young man to come to Canada the next week, showed up with the same suitcase, very little money, and here he is, you know, many, many moons later, 28 years later, still working at Trent Valley, has, you know, met his partner, has had 2 children, has bought a home in Peterborough, has, you know, totally immersed himself in the Canadian way, and he is living the Canadian dream as well.
He's been like second father to me, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, so.
The Canadian papa.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I was 27 and I came from Slovenia, leave all the family behind because nobody else was here.
The only
my
one.
family, I was the only one. And you know, leave all the friends and with a little suitcase and a little bit of money, so that's all I had. So, it's a big chance, yeah. I heard of him, but I never really met him before.
So he had never met him, same village, everyone talking. There's a guy from Canada who's a technician, who's got a business, who's looking for technicians. You should meet him, like the same reputation. He's a good guy. He's like, that was going on back then. Watching my dad living his dreams and making them come true was pretty inspirational for a daughter and for his staff, who still, when he walks in the door, you know, there's the chief, there's the chief. Like, it's so great to watch their reaction and the respect level, and, you know, the customers who still ask to see him and where he is and how is he. And I mean, that just, I don't know, it hits home, right? It's so special as a daughter to just, you know, try and live in those big shoes, but to try and fill and, you know, make an impact on people like he did is truly, you know, what inspires me every day.
Well, one New Year's Eve, probably 79, I think. I went to the mall to get something to make for New Year's Eve dinner, and my car wouldn't start. So I phoned Frank, and he came and started on his way home from work. He was a great guy. I just loved coming here to see him.
It really has a lot to do with, and really everything to do with, the clientele and the relationships that you build. And within Trent Valley, the family is very much the same. I sometimes feel like a family member. I've been around so long. I know Monica's parents very, intimately, and her brother Frank as well. And when you spend 22 years with people, you get close.
I can remember buying a Honda Civic from Frank a number of years ago, more than a number of years ago. When I came down to get it, Frank came out to meet me, and he was carrying the floor mats, and he carefully opened the car door and took his time and fitted all the floor mats. And I said to Frank, "You don't need to do that, I can do that, or you can get one of your workmen to do it." He said, "No," he said, "I want it done right, and I want the customer to be satisfied." So I couldn't help but think, there isn't another dealer anywhere where you'd find the owner of the dealership fitting your car mats in a relatively inexpensive car. I think Monica carries on the tradition of her dad, doing her best, and I think being attentive to other people, listening to their needs, and trying to get the right solutions to any problems that occur.
I put a picture from our 40th anniversary above my office, and I can't tell you how many times people stop and look and want to hear about the story and really get a sense of the family. That is kind of what Dad and Mom started, and what we have tried to continue to live and to be part of our culture, which I think is so important, what makes Trent Valley Honda different.
As I kind of reflect now on the relationship that my sister and I have, we have different roles than my parents had, but very, very similarly, that teamwork is like so strong. We are 180 polar different, but still with the same core value. From the top down, our mantra is, what can we do for the customer?
My first experience with Trent Valley Honda was in 1989. I come driving into this parking lot. It was a small building, and this young kid by the name of Frankie come running out and just had to sell me a car. Even this many years later, I still will only purchase my vehicle from Frankie.
The odd time where we have an error or something doesn't go perfect, we try to do the best we can to resolve it.
I had an Odyssey that had a whistle in it. And the whistle, they couldn't figure out where it was coming from, couldn't figure it out. And Frankie actually lent me his personal pilot for 7 days while they actually fixed my problem. And it ended up being a very simple windshield wiper issue, but he was not going to let it get the best of him or his service staff here at Trent Valley. And they fixed it for me, and I had the use of his vehicle for as long as I needed it.
Monica's such a great boss because she's never someone who takes maybe a weakness and focuses on it.
Monica has the heart of her mother. Alfie's obviously instilled in her the values and the caring aspect of what she is, and Monica continues to carry that on throughout the dealership and with the employees that are here now.
She totally is someone who nurtures what's good and sees what's good in you, and she does that with all of our staff.
Working for Monica is pretty special to me. I've worked here for 18 years. We've kind of been through it all together. And as an employer, I see her almost equally as a friend. And so that I hold that relationship very, very close to my heart.
I have been here 13 years, long time. Monica's a great lady to work for, and she's very aggressive from a standpoint of getting things done and the expectations she expects from people, but she likes to have fun at the same time, so she's pretty easy to work for that way.
She is so grateful for her staff and thankful every day that she has such good people. We have a great team, and she rewards you every day. She thanks you. She has an open door policy where if you have any concerns whatsoever, she is so easy to talk to.
I'm willing, and I've been trained, and my family philosophy is, you know, you don't ask anyone or any of your staff to do anything that you aren't prepared to do. And whatever it takes in a small business is what you do to, one, make your customer happy and to serve them. In our business, we've got amazing spirit and community cause. So we do a lot of different things within our team. One, to have fun, and two, to really give back to as many different causes as we can in our community. My favorite cause right now in the community is the Walk a Mile event, where we get to encourage as many men as possible, and now women as well, to wear their red heels down George Street and walk a mile. And it is really taking a stand against domestic violence in our community.
I work at YWCA Peterborough Halliburton, and I got to know Monica a couple years ago when they came on as title sponsor of our Walk a Mile in Her Shoes event. I had heard about her and her shrewd business sense and what a great woman she was in the community. She always leads from her heart when she's working with us. She's doing it because it's the right thing to do, and it helps hundreds and thousands of other women. And I think that's a pretty great thing to admire and to be proud of.
Honda ourselves locally have always been a big supporter of the Chump Toy Drive. It's kind of the spirit within us. We have always supported the Crossroads Shelter for quite a few events. The Cancer Society is another big one with my history and my passion for that cause. The Relay for Life, we've been there as a team and as supporters or as donators. There's so many of them. The Dragon Boat Festival, I mean, over the years we've done most of them, and we continue to do them and try and get our whole team involved. That's what we like, is kind of, you know, a spirited thing that we can come in and involve people with, to have a little fun with, because that's what it's all about. Very proud to be Peterborough's #1 import dealer. I mean, that is the title that we strive for every year. And it's a very competitive market, and you know, there's one of every manufacturer here.
We never brag about, you know, how many years already now we are #1 import in Peterborough, but we don't brag about it. We were, I think in 10 years we were about 6 times.
9 times we won.
9 times?
Yeah.
He
always said, don't worry about everyone else around you, just focus on what you're doing and take care of your customers and your people, and you'll be #1.
It was always a dream when I was working in Ottawa to have an import car dealership, okay? Then it kind of was just the right time, right place, right thing, the bank work, you know, we work with the bank. It's all,
a little bit of luck.
it's a lot of luck,
Yeah.
you know. Sure, but then you have to work it, and then you
gotta
have to
see it, recognize it,
you
and
know,
go
like
after
it's,
it too.
I mean,
You have
was
to be
standing.
ambitious enough too, yeah. And to have that dream, right?
I lived the Canadian dream. When we have a good family, we have a good marriage, we have a good life, so
Yeah, we really,
no regrets.